Hello, my name is Joseph Singh, and I'd like to welcome you to Group Number Three's presentation, Arguing for the Use of Animal Testing. The group consists of team leader Kayla Vidrio Murillo, Leslie Rojas Vasquez, Giselle Mercado, and myself.
Hi, my name is Giselle Mercado, and I'm going to be covering the background information for animal testing. Animal testing, also known as animal experimentation, involves the use of animals to test the efficiency of products and to further study both animal and human biological functions. In particular, it is used in the fields of medicine, biology, and cosmetics. These experiments can be dated back to ancient Greece, when philosophers like Aristotle conducted experiments on animals to understand the biological functions. Throughout human history, animals have become very useful in research, where they focus on medicinal practice and new findings in our biology. The primary purpose of animal testing is to gather data on how a substance or procedure affects a living organism. It provides scientists with insight to see how certain chemicals can affect the animal's bloodstream before testing the same drug on humans. The most commonly used animals include mice, rats, rabbits, and primates, which they all share many of the same biological similarities with humans. Looking at it closely, many procedures can be dated back to the use of animal testing, such as surgical procedures, pain relievers, organ transplants, medications, and nutritional supplements, which can be traced back to animal research. Back in the day, these procedures were very invasive and had little to no care for the animal's well being. Well, now we have the use of ethical guidelines and regulations to ensure humane treatment. How in many countries right now, there are laws that require researchers to consider alternatives to animal testing and minimize suffering to the animal at any possible cost. Like many research studies, they follow the 3R principles: replacement, reduction, and refinement, which in cited in context, it promotes the use of animal alternatives, reducing the number of animals being used in experiment, and refining techniques to minimize pain and distress that could be possibly inflicted on the animal. However, despite the positive change to the use of animal testing, it remains a controversial topic, with many advocates for animal testing argue that it is essential we keep animal testing for the purpose of medicinal advancements and safety before using it on humans. While the opposing side of the argument, such as animal rights activists, believe that it is unethical to use any animals and that we should use alternatives that can be prioritized, such as computer modeling or vitro testing. Yet, considering it all, animal testing plays a significant role in research and product development. Even though it raised ethical concerns, it's important to look back on our history to see how far humanity has come just from the help of animal testing. As we look at the historical time frame of animal testing and their findings, we first see that the first ever recorded proof of animal testing dates back to 500 BC in ancient Greece. This is where the first initial animal experiments began as vivisections to study their anatomy and better understand the structure of living organisms. To better understand what vivisection means, we must look at the Latin context, where vivis means alive and section means cutting. This was a common practice in history when it came to studying animals. You can only imagine how it must have been when pain medications were non existent, nothing keeping the animal under while they are being cut through and still being fully conscious. Thankfully, research institutes are now able to enact humane procedures that ensure the animal is pain free, with little to no distress. Looking into the timeline, we can see how much of a change animal testing brought to the advancements of human medicine. Around the 17th century, this was the time when animals were mostly being used to study the human body, by opening them up and comparing their own anatomy to our own. Yet animals were not seen as equal to humans. Rather, humanity believed that animals lacked rationality and didn't share the same emotional understandings as we do. A memorable date in time would be in 1790, when Edward Jenner, a scientist, discovered that the vaccine used against cowpox on cattle led to the development of a human vaccine to protect against smallpox, fully eradicating the disease. This further led scientists to start looking into making more vaccines to fight other infectious diseases. Another date in time to look back on would be in the very early 17th century, when William Harvey, a prominent scientist, conducted experiments on various animal species to understand blood circulation. His research was groundbreaking as it helped humanity understand in greater detail how the pulmonary and circulatory systems functioned, as well as how the blood is pumped to the brain and the rest of the body by the heart. These were just a few findings scientists made through the use of animal testing in the 17th century. Now, looking into the 18th century, the studies continued and more findings were made. For example, in 1880, Themistokles Gluck, a German physician and surgeon, was the first to attempt to make a new limb joints by using ivory. He started off by using animals as his first experiments. He implanted these ivory joints devices into the animal's body to test their stability before attempting to do the same procedure on humans. He placed artificial joints in the animal's wrists, elbows, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. After having successful experiments on the animals, he later performed these same procedures on humans. A few examples were when he implanted an ivory joint in a human knee in May 1890, and later performed a wrist arthroplasty and was very successful with all of his surgeries. While he was experimenting on replacing the joints, he was also able to do an early nerve regeneration research, specifically testing a nerve turbulation, before applying his methods to humans. His groundwork in the 18th to 19th century laid the groundwork for modern nerve repair techniques and joint replacements. Continuing to the 19th century, there was a surge of animal testing, and the practice was seen as essential for advancing medical knowledge and scientific understanding. Looking closely at Vladimir Dimikov's work, he performed the first transplant experiment by sewing a dog's head onto another dog by connecting it to the host dog's heart. Although this procedure at the time was inhumane and can be seen as unethical, it was the first step to having any form of transplantation surgery that was successful. Although many believe that his studies could have gone a different way to find different results he was looking for. Finally, now that we are in the 20th century, we have come such a far way with the use of animals in experiments. We now have new laws and policies that have been put in place for scientists to do more ethical studies. We have made continuing advancements within the medicinal field and have saved many lives with them. A good example would be the first ever open heart surgery performed on a 7-month-old dog named Taylor. This procedure was performed by Dr. Michael Kind and Dr. Marco Magaraco. This surgery was successful and has helped doctors to have a higher success rate of correcting rare heart defects. This procedure had the possibility of saving millions of lives and even saved Taylor's life. As we look at the ethical aspects of animal testing, it is proven that it has been humanity's biggest savior from the many diseases and injuries we have faced throughout our history. However, there is still the matter of whether we have gone too far on our own morals. The scientists back in the day who have made discoveries from these animal testings only saw animals as being less than, more machine-like, and unworthy of our proper care. Despite that, in today's society, we now have changed our morals and have given more of a sympathetic care to animals. It is what they deserve for being the real heroes by saving so many lives throughout their efforts. Currently, in labs, we have become more considerate of the number of tests that they can perform on one animal, all while maintaining a watchful eye for any signs of discomfort and providing the animals a pain-free experience. Sadly, we can't go back in time to change the types of animal testing that were done, but we can change our future practices and hope to maintain good ethics.
So, the cultural importance for animal testing. The drive for healing and progress. Throughout history, a fundamental human desire has been to understand and conquer disease. In many cultures, the pursuit of medical knowledge to alleviate suffering has been highly valued. Animal testing has been seen as a crucial step in this pursuit, offering a way to study diseases and test potential cures before they are used on humans. The advancements in medicine attributed to animal research are often viewed as culturally significant achievements. The belief in human benefit. A core tenet supporting animal testing often revolves around the idea that the potential benefits for human health outweigh the ethical concerns about using animals. This perspective can be deeply ingrained in cultures that prioritize human well being and see scientific advancement as a means to achieve it. The development of vaccines, antibiotics, and surgical techniques, often involving animal research, are held up as examples of this beneficial outcome. The idea of animals as resources. Historically, many cultures have viewed animals as resources available for human use. This perspective can extend to scientific research, where animals are seen as tools that can be utilized to further human knowledge and improve human lives. This viewpoint doesn't necessarily disregard animal welfare entirely, but places a greater emphasis on human needs and progress. Regulatory and legal frameworks. In many societies, laws and regulations have been established that mandate animal testing for certain products, particularly pharmaceuticals, before they can be approved for human use. These legal frameworks, often shaped by cultural beliefs about safety and efficiency, reinforce the cultural importance placed on animal testing as a necessary step in protecting public health. Historical acceptance and tradition. The practice of using animals in scientific research has a long history. This tradition, while increasingly scrutinized, has contributed to its cultural acceptance in some contexts. The historical successes attributed to animal research can create a sense of continuity and justification for its continued use. It is crucial to remember that while these points highlight the cultural factors that have historically supported animal testing, there are also strong and growing cultural movements that advocate for alternatives and raise significant ethical concerns about the practice. The conversation around animal testing is dynamic and reflects evolving cultural values and scientific understanding. The sociological importance that supports animal testing. Social progress and public health. From a sociological perspective, the advancements in medicine and public health that have been linked to animal research are often seen as crucial for societal well being and progress. The development of vaccines for diseases like polio and measles, the creation of antibiotics, and advancements in surgical techniques are frequently cited as examples of how animal testing has contributed to increased life expectancy and overall quality of life for human populations. These medical breakthroughs have had a profound impact on social structures, family life, and economic productivity. Risk management and societal safety. Societies often prioritize safety and risk mitigation, particularly in areas concerning health. Animal testing has historically been viewed as a necessary step in assessing the safety and efficiency of new medical treatments before they are introduced to the human population. This process is embedded in regulatory frameworks designed to protect public health, reflecting a societal value placed on minimizing harm. The social construction of scientific authority. The scientific community, a key social institution, has often relied on animal models as a valid and necessary method for understanding biological processes and developing medical interventions. This reliance contributes to the social authority of scientific knowledge and the trust placed in medical advancements that have undergone animal testing. The acceptance of animal testing within the scientific community can in turn influence broader societal views. Economic and industrial structures. The pharmaceutical and biomedical industries, significant components of modern economies, have historically incorporated animal testing into their research and development processes. This creates an economic and industrial infrastructure that supports and in some ways depends on animal testing. The jobs, investments, and economic outputs associated with these industries contribute to the sociological importance of animal testing, even as alternatives are explored. Social norms and values. Historically, some societies have held anthropocentric views that prioritize human well being above the welfare of other species. This perspective can contribute to the social acceptance of animal testing as a necessary means to improve human lives. While animal welfare concerns have gained significant traction and influenced societal norms in many parts of the world, the historical precedence of anthropocentric values has played a role in the sociological acceptance of animal research. The role of advocacy and social movements. It is important to acknowledge that the sociological landscape surrounding animal testing also includes significant advocacy for animal rights and the development of alternative testing methods. These social movements challenge the traditional acceptance of animal testing and exert pressure on scientific, regulatory, and industrial bodies to adopt more ethical approaches. The ongoing dialogue and tension between these perspectives highlight the evolving sociological understanding of our relationship with animals and the ethical considerations in scientific research. In summary, the sociological importance of animal testing is multifaceted, encompassing its perceived contributions to public health, its role in risk management and scientific authority, its embeddedness in economic structures, and the influence of evolving social norms and advocacy movements. Understanding these sociological dimensions provides a broader context for the ongoing debates surrounding animal testing. Current events that support animal testing. While there is a strong movement towards reducing and replacing animal testing, several current events and ongoing needs still support its use in specific areas of research. FDA regulations. As of April 2025, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration still requires animal testing for certain types of medical products to ensure safety and efficiency before human trials can begin. For many other drug categories and medical devices, animal testing remains a regulatory necessity. Lack of complete alternatives. Despite significant advancements in new approach methodologies like AI based computational models and organ on a chip technology, these methods are not yet sophisticated enough to fully replicate the complexity of a living organism and its interconnected systems. For understanding how a drug or disease affects an entire biological system, animal models are still considered necessary in many cases. Understanding complex biological processes. Researchers often need to study diseases and potential treatments in a whole living system to understand complex interactions between organs, the immune system, and other physiological processes. Inducing diseases in animal models allow for the study of disease progression and the effects of interventions in a way that is not ethically or practically feasible in humans. Genetic research. Animals, particularly rodents, like mice, can be genetically engineered to have or lack specific genes, allowing researchers to determine the role of these genes in disease development. This type of research, crucial for understanding the genetic basis of many conditions, cannot be ethically conducted on humans. Preclinical safety evaluation. Animal studies are used to identify potential toxic effects such as organ damage, infertility, or cancer causing potential of new drugs or therapies before they are tested in humans. This preclinical safety evaluation is a crucial step in protecting human health. COVID-19 research. Animal research played a crucial role in the rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines. Animal models, including ferrets and non human primates, were used to study the efficiency and safety of vaccine candidates before human trials. This highlights the continued importance of animal testing in responding to public health emergencies. It is important to note that alongside these points, there is a strong push for the development and adoption of alternative testing methods to reduce and ultimately replace animal use in research. Many organizations and researchers are actively working on these alternatives, driven by ethical concerns and the potential for more human relevant testing methods. Animal testing remains a component of the drug development and biomedical research landscape due to regulatory requirements and the limitations of current alternative methods for addressing certain complex biological questions.
This is Joseph Singh presenting arguments for animal testing. Animal models offer a controlled, biologically relevant way to measure the safety of drugs and whether they may be useful in humans. When scientists use animal experimentation first, they can study how a drug reacts in vivo and monitor for side effects or adverse reactions. This allows researchers to study both short and long-term effects of a medicine on a living system that shares physiological traits with humans. This helps scientists understand how the substance can affect various organs and other systems within the body, which is often impossible to replicate in artificial computer models. According to Stanford Medicine, around 98% of animals used for animal trials are rodents. These rats and mice are purpose-bred, specifically for the tests being conducted on them, and are purchased from specialized breeders that are registered with the USDA. This ensures that the data collected from tests can be replicated and tests are not performed on anyone's former pet that had gone missing, as some urban mythmakers like to claim. In fact, tragedies have been ironically triggered by animal rights activists who set laboratory animals free that were not equipped to survive on their own outside of the controlled environment in which they had been raised. These attacks, though seemingly well-intentioned, caused not only monetary damages and loss of life to the aforementioned animals, but the destruction of untold amounts of data, research, and potential scientific breakthroughs. Laboratories wishing to use live animals for testing in California are required to get approval from the California Department of Public Health, which enforces strict regulations regarding how the animals are housed, fed, and cared for. The initial federal law governing animal research, now known as the Animal Welfare Act, was passed nearly 60 years ago and has been amended multiple times with increasing severity. Research facilities are now monitored by several agencies that conduct thorough inspections. If violations are found, an organization can lose its funding and/or forfeit its operational licenses. Joseph Singh again, continuing arguments for animal testing. When products are tested on an animal before moving to human trials, scientists are able to assess multiple variables revealing crucial information such as absorption rates, toxicity, and how quickly the substance and its metabolites are cleared from the body. Without this invaluable data, trials on humans would be much more dangerous and carry a much higher risk. The scientific consensus on the thalidomide tragedy of the mid-20th century is that had more extensive animal testing been performed before releasing the drug to the public, the catastrophe could have been averted. Scientific discoveries from animal testing help combat disease and improve life in animal populations as well. Research on everything from veterinary medicines to mating habits of endangered species has been furthered by data derived from animal testing laboratories. Therefore, livestock is better cared for, animals in zoos are better understood, and pets are healthier and live more comfortable and longer lives. Even animal conservation programs have benefited from this research by creating better breeding programs and habitat development for endangered species. Despite extreme viewpoints like those held by the Animal Liberation Front, which is classified as a terrorist group by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies, the consensus is that animal lives and human lives are not a one-to-one equivalency. While measures should be taken to ensure that animal test subjects do not endure undue suffering, the moderate moral stance posits that the preservation of human life is of paramount importance.
As a summary of animal testing is good when it comes to the effect it has on humans. Without animal testing, the reaction that people are looking for would have to come from humans, meaning that it would be dangerous. It would be a dangerous effect on humans that could possibly lead them to death. Instead of testing leading to human death, they would much rather have it affect an animal that would have nothing to say. Even though this isn't okay as well, this is a much better option than the death of a human life.
In my personal opinion, I believe that animal experimentation can have great benefits to our advancements in medicine. They can possibly cure our worst diseases such as cancer, leukemia, and so many others that have led to fatality or poor quality of life. With the right practices, we can have ethical animal tests that can cause no harm to the animals, while also advancing these tests into animal medicine. That way, we are bettering their lives alongside our own because they deserve to be serviced after the many horrific services their ancestors provided humanity.
This is Joseph Singh, and my personal opinion is that animal testing has long been an industry standard for personal care products, pharmaceuticals, and life-saving medicines. While I find the thought of a beagle, chimpanzee, or any other animal suffering needlessly repulsive, the thought of abandoning further research that could save babies or cure disabilities is of greater concern. Possibly artificial intelligence will be the great achievement that alleviates the need for animal testing models to further our scientific knowledge, but that remains to be seen.
My personal opinion. Like it has been said, animal testing is crucial and can be very beneficial for the human race. It does hurt me to think that animals are being harmed by some tests, but I hope these new technological advancements that are being done can alleviate such pain and make the test harmless to the animals. Hopefully, with time, this can be achieved and testing animals will no longer feel like they're being harmed, but actually feel cared for.
My personal opinion on being for animal testing. Animal testing is beneficial to humans in many ways, but it does hurt me to see the damage that happens to all these animals. Without the animal testings, humans can receive the damage instead and be harmful towards them. In these cases, it's hard to decide whether or not to be on one side or the other. Both reasons are very valid, but we also have to consider animal rights and welfare. If there were any other options that would help both animals and humans, would be much better.